Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and I'm really excited for today's presentation. We're going to be going over the Hawaiian Brown Seals. These were made during World War II, and I'll start with a little bit of a backstory before we go into the specifics about the different denominations, what they're worth, what the star notes are worth, and that sort of thing. But the things to know is that they were made after the invasion of Pearl Harbor. Basically, we were concerned that if the Japanese forces took over and captured our islands in the Pacific, that they'd then have a bunch of American cash potentially. So what they did is that they issued these and replaced all of the notes on the island with these ones. Up to $200 million of U.S. cash ended up getting burned, and they were given these with the idea being if they captured Hawaii, that we could say all of these notes are worthless, and thankfully that did not happen, but the result was that we got some pretty rare and interesting currency. There were also the North African notes made during World War II for the war in North Africa, but the main difference between these two is that these were actually replacing notes that were instead burned. So one thing that I did want to say, and this is from oldcurrencyvalues.com, but I did want to explain what a mule note is. Basically, there's different numbers on our bills, and right here you can see C25. Here's the backplate number 1205, so 25, 1205 are different. Same thing on this bill, it's 3810, and here it's 2725. So that's a mule note. They're generally really not too valuable because there were so many mules for this series, but I just wanted to say that so you know what the terminology is referring to. But these circulated condition notes are going to be only about $15 for the $1 bill. They only had the 1935A designation on the one. There were 35 million of them made, so they were by far the most printed note. And then the uncirculated ones will go for about 120. Now, there are something called blocks. So as you can see this, it says C000261C. So that would be the CC block. And the most commonly encountered ones are SC, LC, PC, CC, and YB. But the toughest ones to find are the ZB and AC blocks. And you really see most of the price difference in the uncirculated grades. So that 120 refers to a pretty common one. If you have one of the tough to find ZB or AC blocks in uncirculated grades, you can definitely expect more than $120. These, as a rule, all of these generally come on darker paper, so it's not like uncommon to see that, and it's also not uncommon to have runs of uncirculated notes, and those will have a little bit of a premium. That's when all of the serial numbers are going to be in a row, but it's not like those were super rare. But if you do have them, you want to keep those lots together. Now, in terms of the star notes, there were about 204,000 of them printed, but the low range is above $100. So this is definitely one where you want to be on the lookout for those. As you get higher and higher, like this one was graded 67 out of 70 and sold for about $5,000. But the numbers did start really high in terms of the serial numbers, so you're not going to get any really low ones like on the previous slide where it's in the first few thousand. There's nothing special along those lines. Moving on to the $5 bill, we had 1934 and 34A notes, and you can see the difference right there. It says series of 1934A. That A would just be missing if it was the regular 1934. And again, they're all going to be from San Francisco, as indicated over here, and they're called emergency notes. And the smallest number of notes were made for this denomination at a little over 9 million. This costs about $50 in circulated grades and starts out at $300 for uncirculated ones. I saw a 67 at $2,500. And the non-mule star notes are the best to find when the back plates are going to be the same. Here you can just see what a star note looks like. But these start around $600, and a good condition one, if you've got one, that's going to be a huge amount of money. $34,000 was what a 64 graded star note was in this denomination, so that's really one that you want to be careful about and make sure that you don't have one that you don't realize is worth a ton of money. 1934 also had the 34A $10 notes, and they would range up to $20 just as a heads up. But these are the least interesting in terms of having a lot of complicated aspects. There's no mule notes, there's no block varieties, so all of them was the LA block, and there's no 1934 examples. Basically, you probably can't collect these because the only set you can do is just a $10 and then a star note, but they're still pretty attainable, which is something that I like about them. They're only $50 for a pretty high denomination, and that's the quote for a pretty circulated one, and then they start around 300 as well in the uncirculated. There were 10.5 million of these made at San Francisco, and the star notes, I'll go to that slide, were very, very hard to get. Only 108,000 of them were made, so they start out at about 500 for well-circulated copies, and XF and higher will quickly surpass $1,000. Again, a 64 sold for about 28,000. And that brings us to our last one, the 1934 and 34A $20 Hawaiian Brown Seals. These are the largest denomination. Would have been cool to see 50s and 100s. I'm not exactly sure why we didn't end up just producing those as well. But the mules versus non-mules don't really have much of a difference, costing around $60 in circulated conditions. The one to look for is on the back. You want to see backplate 204. That will carry significant premiums when they're uncirculated. And a regular uncirculated one would cost about $3,000 in 63, just as an example of what the uncirculated range is. They also have the lowest quantity of star notes, so these are going to be extremely expensive. Only 52,000 of them were printed. 750 is the quote for the low range, and then XF or higher is a 4-figure note. I saw a $20,000 sale for a 64, and again, if you could get something a little bit higher than that, like a 65 or 66, I think that you might be able to see exponential price increases. But yeah, that pretty much goes over the series. There's not a ton of depth or complicated aspects to the different notes that I'm showing you, but it's good to know, and I had known about them for a while, didn't realize that they were actively burning the notes that these guys were replacing. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more content, and get in touch with me or contact on treasuretownYT.com, my website, my Facebook, Treasuretown, my Twitter, at treasuretown_YT, or my Instagram, at treasuretownYT. Looking forward to seeing you on some of my other videos.